The surgery, we do it each and every Tuesday morning from 8 until 11. We come with Britain's first Black current affairs show where we discuss and have dialogue about all the things that have been pertinent in the media over the past week. Um, and that's what the show is about, really. We're having that discussion. Um, So let's have that discussion. What were we talking about beforehand? Let me tell you what the topics have been. So this over the past week, we've noted a few things on media, whether it's social or the television. We've spoken about today Alison on ITV, Alison Hammond on ITV, our presentation of the imagery and the depictions for Black History Month not being the most flattering or the most convincing images for Black Pride, and we just felt that the ITV depiction was a bit far removed from the purpose and the aims for Black History Month, and so we were highlighting that and the continuing issues that those kind of imageries and thinking causes within our community and communities right across the globe in the diaspora, the African diaspora. The lockdown, we mentioned and talked about the lockdown. As you know, the lockdown is getting more widespread, and it will perhaps, as been suggested, come back to London lockdown part two. As we know, there's been a lot of upheaval and a lot of damage and impact from the first lockdown. And now with a second lockdown planned, our business is concerned, or our business is doing okay. Are you concerned? Are you doing okay? Because there's been a lot taking place and a lot of impact. By the sound of things, they're saying Britain has currently borrowed something like 250 billion pounds already, and and counting. And they're saying that within the next couple of years, the tax bill will have to rise by an extra 47 billion to per annum to cover what's been borrowed so far, or what might be the final outcome. And those figures are extremely high. That means one's tax bill is set to rise it's beyond recognition. Now, all this said and done, and everyone's singing about this pandemic aspect of things, we have to wonder if the government has taken the best approach towards this lockdown and whether they're serious. If you guys don't know, Boris's dad, Stanley Johnson, he wrote a book called The Virus. And what do you think that book was about? I want you guys to Google it. He wrote a book called The Virus, and that book is about, yes, you get it, a virus that triggered a global pandemic.
It only happened once before.
It
only happened once before.
What do you mean?
That's what the book's about.
It's triggered a global pandemic. The virus, and the funny thing is, it's about the government releasing the deadly virus into the population as a cover for population control through a forced vaccine. Yep, you want me to say it again? Boris Johnson's dad, Stanley, Mr. Stanley Johnson, wrote a book back in 1982 called The Virus. And this is about the government releasing a deadly virus into the population as a cover for population control through a forced vaccine. No kidding. It's funny, isn't it? You have to laugh sometimes about these serious things. You know what I'm saying? So we're in that phase of lockdown again, because this virus that has a 14% impact rate, So 14% of the population will suffer some adverse impact from the virus. They'll get some symptomology. The other 86% of the population won't be affected. And some, I don't know the actual estimate at the moment, but some below 2% mortality amongst those that have underlying conditions or of a certain age group, or funny enough, you belong to a Black or Asian minority group. What a virus smart. You know, the virus is just doing the job of all the races. You know, that's how smart that virus is, that it can attack just the intended people. And this lockdown is coming again. They're talking about vaccines for us again, you know, with that devil. I ain't gonna say no different. That devil Bill Gates and his husband Melinda. They talking about that when the vaccine's ready, it should go to Black people first. You know, these white people, they're so caring about us, isn't it? Oh man, it's so amazing. Oh gosh. You know, when when these guys, you know, are so considerate towards us. If you don't want to buy that, I mean, I don't think I was very convincing at all. You know, so you know, so it's another one, you know. I don't know. But as one caller called in and said that his GP surgery asked him to take part, has anyone else received such a request? It'd be interesting to know. The obscene thing about the whole lockdown and the whole virus process is because Britain's first so-called approach towards this virus was to do herd immunity. And with the herd immunity approach, that kind of, as they said, backfired. And we spoke about this in the past, about the herd immunity approach backfiring, leading to the lockdown because the amount of people getting ill skyrocketed. Now, at the moment, we know that in the UK, those people in the north are some 5 times greater suffering from COVID infections or positive COVID cases, let me say it like that, at a 5 times greater frequency than those living in the southeast. And we know it was kind of the other way around when London was on the increase in the early part of the first lockdown, and the southeast was suffering majorly. What is being said is that the reason why the north statisticians and officials were monitoring they were monitoring the impact on London and not the north. So when London came down below figures, they came out of lockdown whilst the north was still somewhat still unstable, which kind of makes no sense, because if the north wasn't as bad as the southeast and then lockdown helped the southeast, why didn't lockdown help the north? And then because it wasn't like the southeast was locked down and the north wasn't. So technically speaking, if the north wasn't so badly impacted at the time and then lockdown came and we came out of lockdown, it should have been, if lockdown had, if would have all cleared right across the board. But they're saying that we came out of lockdown too early for the north. Or is it the case that because the southeast in the first place, a lot of people had gotten COVID and gotten over it, because there's an 86% representation where it shows that there's no negative impact. So I throw that out there. Let me know what you guys think. That's generally, these are the statistics that are thrown out there. So we're just highlighting them. The next aspect of the discussion was with Jonathan Price. And let me broaden this one now. When we look at Jonathan Price, we see a gentleman that, if we're talking about an upstanding citizen, everyone says he's upstanding. All the black folks, all the white folks, everyone that's interacted with this guy said he has been a pillar to the community. Now, it'll be interesting to know if the officer that killed him had a prior run-in with him or any kind of altercations in the past, because by the sounds of things, it's a small town, and you know that over the years, people will come across people in various contexts to see if there's any prior history there of adversity between the two. But, this gentleman who, like I said earlier, and if you want to catch the first part of the show, you can catch it back on the YouTube channel right as we speak. So there's two types of outcomes from the pre-programming over the years. People are taught to be all loving, like the Care Bears approach, forgiving, always see the best in people, etc., etc. Whereas it seems like this gentleman, Mr. Price, took that approach to life, and it led to a scenario where he was helping to break up a fight or a dispute between a couple in a petrol station. The police were called, and the police came, and according to the reports, the officer approached Mr. Price, who in turn tried to shake the policeman's hand. I don't know what happened there, but then I think the policeman wanted to arrest him or place him in cuffs, and Mr. Price was said to have walked off in a non-threatening manner with his hands raised, and the officer immediately tased. Now, there's not been any footages of the incident that's been released. I'm wondering why. It'll be good to see what's happening. Probably it's too grotesque, or I'm not quite sure why there's not been any video release. But the officer, nonetheless, he's been removed. He's been sacked from his job, and he's been charged with murder. And I say that to highlight that even it doesn't matter the approach that an individual takes, whether you approach or you want to take that angry approach in life, the angry black man, it still boils down to the fact that you have to know who you're dealing with. And I don't think a lot of us, when we see scenarios, we deal with people in the context of who they are. And I say that because I'm not going to say it's every police officer that's like that. But whenever you meet someone in those situations, you best bet summarize and get a good picture and an idea of what they're about very quickly. The same thing is taking place here in the UK and has been taking place here in the UK, even though you have a Met Police Commissioner that is completely inept, that's out of their depths, in what they're doing here in the UK, in the Metropolitan Police. We have Kevin Clarke, who was killed in similar circumstances to George Floyd, essentially speaking. If you see the video, what the aspects of it that they show, Mr. Clarke's on the floor. He's clearly having an episode, and they cuffed this guy. Now, one of the worrisome things, and this is the thing when we talk about databases, tracing and tracking, the information that was on file for Mr. Clarke led to the police's approach in how they treated him. Now, this government, wants us to be trusting, or trusting of the process at hand, and that's fine. However, if the processes at hand result in the abuse and the ill treatment of certain people, then it's very difficult to say that we condone or we support that narrative. And this is where you have so many people so weary about measures in lockdown, such as track and trace, because in the case of Mr. Clark, he very much likely ended up dead on this occasion because there was something on file that said in a prior arrest, in a prior scenario, um, he got what's the word? I won't say violent, but there was a red mark against his name based on a prior arrest where it appeared that there was some difficulties. So as a result, they didn't assess the situation for what it is. They moved immediately to cuff him, even though he wasn't being threatening. They moved to, remove and remove all his rights immediately without any form of fear assessment, but more so on what's written down. So even if what was written down was a misnomer from before, it didn't matter. It still resulted in his death. And in this regard, we have to ensure that, we understand how we're treated within this society. We have to start look at these situations in a way that we can fairly analyze and treat scenarios, because whether we enter it with these rose-tinted glasses to say that the police is our friend, or we enter the scenario completely distrusting, or we enter the scenario in a state of asking for help, the end result is that injury is taking place no matter what the approach. So we have to kind of have that thinking about it. Let us know what you think. I've been rambling on long enough. If we have no callers, I guess we're going to wrap up early. The number is 0753 996 8143. I'll give it again, 0753 996 8143. One more time for the money, 0753 996 8143. And that's a scenario, we have to understand that. And likewise, the case with Bianca Williams, where their situation was caught on camera. It immediately led to a formal complaint. It immediately was flagged up as inappropriate. However, you could see that the Met Police again didn't care. They still went above and beyond to place the young couple's child on the Merlin register. So a register that monitors children, placing
the well-being of the child.
Yeah, monitors the well-being of the child, a 3-month-old child, and it monitors the well-being of the child, but it monitors those children that have been accused or been caught up in some form of misbehavior or abuse. So you can start seeing, that even when the situation isn't threatening to them, there's still action from the Met that leads to the breakdown or the attempted breakdown and criminalization of the Black family. So now a 3-month-old baby, their outcome is going to be under scrutiny. Their outcome in life up until they probably get to age 25 will be under scrutiny because of this Merlin that was inappropriately placed onto the child. This is how they work. They throw a little bit of tarnish on it early, and then down the road, that tarnish looks like a hell of a lot of dirt when they decide to throw that situation or that person under the bus. And it's the same thing that took place for Mr. Clark, Kevin Clark, where they had tarnished his name by saying, you know, there might have been difficulties once he was arrested in the past. So now, in them approaching Mr. Clark, they went straight to the extremities, which led to his death. You know, and then these officers that dealt with Bianca Williams, there won't be any true reprisals for it. They have nothing to lose. And I want you guys to look this up today. You know, how many Met Police officers have a criminal record? So you're being policed by a bunch of criminals. You don't believe me? Check it out. How many Met Police officers have a criminal record? Are you guys familiar with that? In the Metropolitan Force alone, you know, there's some 300, over 300, and those are the ones that have received a criminal record whilst in uniform. They're not talking about the ones that had a criminal record prior, or, you know, it's like the date, they don't want to give all the information. So some of at least 1,000 police officers and PCSOs have a criminal record. It's astounding. So you're talking about people that have been, let me a lot of people would think that a police officer doesn't have a criminal record, wouldn't you? A lot of people would think if you got a criminal record as a police officer, you would be, you know, your job would be terminated. You remember that girl that wanted to be a part of the Met Police Force? So she said anyway, but she said that the 4 guys raped her on holiday, and then Greece found out. Was it Greece? Found out that Cyprus or wherever she was, found out that she was lying, and she was just like, you know what I mean, trying to you know, garner attention or what, I don't know what she was doing, you know what I mean. But all of a sudden, when they realized that, when the video, you know, there was this big push in the UK to what's the word, clear her name, because she wanted to be a police officer, and it was absolutely inappropriate for this action to be taken against her when she's a victim of. And then the video comes out, and she, in the video, she's there acting like a porn star, you know, and then everything goes quiet. You have to wonder if she's on the force now, you know. I mean, so you have quite a lot of people on the force, and so you have to wonder: poor training, racism. So with the, like I said, I like the oh gosh, what's the party's name again? The TTP party? TTIP. The TTIP party, with their program to say that if you are racist, you should be placed on a racist register. You know what I mean? You can imagine all these things, how much of that impact is there within the police force, why it's not fit for purpose. And I've been saying this for a long time, that Crusader Dick, head of the Metropolitan Police, is no good, you know, in her job. The Met Police, Britain's largest force, you know, came top of having the most criminals in the police force. So imagine these criminals stopping you and trying to criminalize you because they're criminals. Imagine that. A criminal stopping you and trying to criminalize you or your youths, and they themselves are criminals. A police I don't think a police officer should be able to be a police officer if they got any kind of criminal conviction. Driving offenses, that's a different matter. You know, we can turn a blind eye to driving
Not
offenses.
if they're driving the cars.
Say again?
Not if they're driving the cars.
Well, the producer disagrees. The producer goes, not if they're driving the cars. But I'm just saying, I don't. A driving offense isn't a criminal matter for a motorist unless they lick down somebody and kill them in their drunk driving state or whatever. A driving conviction isn't essentially a criminal's social conviction. So they're people too. So we treat them like people too. You know, in that sense. So you wouldn't lose your job on a driving conviction. So I wouldn't say they should lose their job on a driving conviction. But where it's not a driving conviction and it's an actual criminal matter where you would lose your job, they should also lose their job. They should not be sitting in such a role where they can go to court and they speak into a judge as if, or even the magistrates, and you know, the magistrates are a bunch of idiots, right? So you always get them three idiots up there, them three magistrates that don't know diddly squat. And caller, I have to take you live. The producer says she's not taking any more calls. That's not going live. So what's your name? Where you calling from?
My name is Alam. Alam.
Hi, Alam. How are you doing?
Hiya. I'm good, thank you. And I'm calling from Wembley.
Oh, hiya.
Hiya. I'm just wanting to ring to say that this is one of the most informative radio programs that I've listened to in a long time. In terms of getting information about ourselves as African people, there's been lots of programs on Amiga that have kind of given that information and helped us grow. But in regards to some of the things that you've kind of disclosed today, it's been very, very informative. I just wanted to let you know, and I know that lots of people have been ringing in, and perhaps it's because they just taking in some of the information, because I've learned a few things today that I didn't realize. There's so much stuff out there that you just don't realize. So I just wanted to let you know that. Thank you very much. That's all I want to say, really.
Oh,
and I'm listening attentively.
What me I'm talking too much.
No. Sometimes it's good to listen, and sometimes, you know, it's good to hear stuff, make few notes, and then go and do a little bit of extra research. So I've been doing that while I've been listening to you also.
Yeah.
To get clarity on things and to kind of get a bit deeper understanding of things, and it's just been great. Thank you. Honestly.
You.
So I hope there's lots of people out there that, even though they're not calling in, they're doing their listening.
Tell them to call in and let me know, because I just feel lonely here talking. Come on, the producer.
Every Tuesday morning between 8 and 10, 11, trust me.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, then. You take good care.
You too. Bye for now. Shout out to Alam down there in Wembley. Thank you very much for the positive words. They might have some more positive words now. 0753-996-8143. 0753-996-8143. Love to hear from you. Any addition that you guys might have to the information, it'll be very, very much appreciated. So as I was saying before the call, there's so much taking place here in the country. But like I'm saying, an officer should not be in that role. And if any of you've been to court, and you whether it's like a magistrate's or even with a judge, or a magistrate's court with magistrates, or a crown court, or whatever the case may be, police officers' words are taken. Oh, we have another caller. Call you're live. What's your name? Where you calling from? Hello.
Magistrates or a crown or whatever the case may be. Police's words are taken.
Hello.
Yes. Good morning.
Morning.
Sister Diana. I'm currently driving, but I'm also from Wembley, and I just really want to back what the sister that called just said. I love Amiga FM. Ever since You do such wonderful shows, and I'm really enjoying the show at the moment, this morning.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you.
Yes, I really want to big up Omega. I used to listen to other radio stations in the community, but all they played was music. And then I was driving one day, tuning up my radio, and I found Omega, and I'm like, yes, at last we have a radio station that deals with our issues. You can call in, and you're having vibrant, productive discussions.
Yeah.
You know, so give thanks for the works, and I love listening in the morning with my son as well. There's a DJ that does a morning show for the children.
Okay.
And I don't know his name, but he is a very, very good DJ.
Okay.
And he does a lot of Black history, plays empowering songs for children.
Okay.
So if there's parents listening in, please tune in the mornings before you take your children to school, because Omega FM is doing wonderful work. So I'm very proud of your station. Thank you.
Thank you, sis. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very, very much. I haven't got much to contribute to the topic, but because I was listening in and out, and I know you're currently talking about the law surrounding the police and stop and searching and arresting as well. So that is a very sensitive topic for myself.
Yeah.
I've had interaction with these dirty beasts, you know?
Yeah.
So I know exactly what you're saying about them.
Yeah, man.
So give thanks, my brother,
Give
for
thanks.
the enlightenment. Yeah, and the power that Omega FM is empowering the people in the community. Yes, with knowledge, you know, and up-to-date information. And I listen late at night as well, where you have a lot of interesting audio documentaries about so many different topics.
Yeah.
So very, very interesting. Keep up the good work, Omega.
All right. Thank you. On behalf of management, I say thank you as well.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, management. Thank you, all the presenters. You've really changed my life and educated me and empowered me.
No worries.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Make us know that we're not alone.
All right, sis. Yeah.
Thank you, my brother. Yes.
Take
God
care.
bless you.
Yeah, man.
Guidance.
All right. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
Give thanks to the sis. You know, drive safe, sis. Drive safe. You know. I think, you know what I mean. Where was I? Yes. You know, big up self-management, you know, hold your head high. You know, it's not easy sometimes, but you know, don't let them push you away. And you know what I mean, keep fighting. They encourage management as well, you know. So as I was saying, so when we look at and it's not just the Metropolitan Police, you know, but the Metropolitan Police has got the highest amount, but then again they got the highest amount of officers, so by proportion. But when we look at the statistics, you start to realize that they literally, you know, don't want to reveal all the information, because it's not every bit of information that they release out there. Call you live. What's the name where you're calling from?
I wanted to know if you know the difference between a policeman and a police officer.
Yes and no. Yes and no in terms of a constable and so forth. Yes.
Yeah, because we seem to because it's like now that we teach police officers, right? Going back to the movie, officer and a gentleman, officer never lies. Yeah? So when we get into the argument, I'm going to put officer never lies. Yeah, so I'm the officer, but I'm putting to be like the everyday person on the road. So there's a difference, I believe there's a difference between a policeman and a police officer.
You see, when we say it like that, I thought you meant in terms of like a police constable and a police officer, where a constable is sworn to protect and uphold you know, the law, and a officer is more dealing with enforcement. So in terms of like the different positions, that's where I thought you were coming from. But everybody, but I tell you something. Everyone lies, and the reason why I'm saying it like that is that one of the biggest problems we as a people have had, and I've had the difficulties as well. When you go to that game, because you play games on a court, right? Tennis court. So when you end up in a courtroom, and you're in that game where it's about how good your lawyer is at presenting certain information, and how good the prosecution is. When you're in that situation there, and you have a police officer lying out of his teeth, it's one of the hardest things to overcome, and you have to really have a lot of evidence. Now you don't make a movie twist your head about that. No, man, in the reality everybody lie. But this is the so-called philosophy. And when you walk into a courtroom where a judge or a layperson, magistrate, so whoever it is taking the word of these liars, right? And if it then, you as an innocent party in that situation, you're going to be victimized, because you're going to be either criminalized or you're going to be penalized. So the fact of what I'm highlighting is that we have to start changing this narrative, just like how the Americans are pushing to deconstruct and build the police back up. We have to look at how we have to pursue getting a proper and a more appropriate police commissioner into role that understands what the infrastructure that needs to be changed. We need to purge and I don't know if it's going to happen here in the UK, because the police force is kind of different here in the UK, and their premise and their policies are set for a certain agenda type setup. And that's why I gave you the answer I gave you, because I said kinda and not kinda, because right now it's like, because everyone has the way their own way of things, and it's sometimes the words we use causes confusion and clouds the argument. I'm not going to say you're wrong or anything like that. I'm just going to say I don't quite fully grasp what's being presented, but I hear you, and the listening audiences have heard you, and we take note. Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, I'm always willing to learn. Like I said, the little that I'm aware of is in relation to more of the term constable and officer and so forth. You know what I mean? So, and I go by the. I mean, you mentioned the movie, but when I look at things from the country where I'm looking at it from. So if it's the UK, I'm going to look at it from the British perspective. If in America, I look at it from the American perspective. But I understand where you're coming from. Yeah. Well, as you know, as you know, we do our best and just to keep the show focused on current affairs and what's current in the media's eye right now. And this is what we look to discuss during the shows, current affairs. Now, I mean, the premise of the show is to dispense a way of what we realized is that when you look at society out there, the media, for example, you have your BBC News, you have your LBC, you have your radio, the talk radios all around the UK. They spew a certain narrative, and these narratives and these things that they present on these shows, a lot of times they're skewed, you know, and the way they present the information, they present information to start to distort things, and it's in its subtlety they've been achieving a lot, and we just feel that we had to present our side of things to lend clarity to things, because and not by doing it in a way where people will come on the radio and they will quote in every context, they will quote information received from social media that they didn't research, they didn't verify or validate, and they just quote it. And it yeah, yes. No, I'm not speaking about you. I'm not speaking about you. Yeah. So and so people just push that narrative out there in terms of misinformation. So misinformation grows, and this. Right. So but the point being is that with that being said, we didn't have someone that was looking at the main points that were being discussed around us and challenging that narrative. And that's what we set out to do, and that's what we do our best to do. Anytime something comes in the media, the newspapers, talk radio, wherever, that there's a narrative being pushed, we do our best to come and just give it as clear as possible and have a discussion around it, because we see it different, it doesn't mean it's right. So we bring it to you, the public, as the final assessors of that information. We bring it as a debate, but I present my point on it. But I don't present my point to say, you know, my point is fact and there's no other fact out there, because a fact is dependent on the position of point where you're standing from, because and the direction you're looking in. So things can change based on need. So I present it as it is, and I present what my thinking on it is, but I can agree and I can see that my thinking could be wrong based on where someone else is standing and where they're looking. And that's why it's good to have dialogue, because we can, you know, they say 2 heads are better than one. Imagine what 1,000 heads or 20,000 heads all in unison can achieve. So it's just about that, you know, bringing it to the table so we can all discuss it. It doesn't mean what I'm saying is set in stone and it's going to be the way forward. Let's all discuss it. Let's all bring it to the point where we can see it from a common consensus. Yeah. Yeah, but I understand what you're saying, Kola, but remember that isn't pertinent to the debate at hand, and that's what. We're talking about Black history in the context of how it's been presented over the past week or 2 weeks in the media. So we cannot come and talk about the whole of Black history in this show. We're talking about a specific aspect of it, and so when you're saying that to the producer, her job over the past week has been to check out how things have been presented, what she's seen, the distortions based on it, and to bring it to the fray, where she and I can discuss, and then we can add it to the mix to see what if it's pertinent enough, or we can see past that, you know. And it's just like last week we went in hard on the gym. What's the gym's name again? Pure Gym. And then on this week, you know, we've checked it out she's checked it out further. And, you know, it was a black guy, because we didn't know. So we don't just leave things and then make it sound like, yeah, it must have been an Asian or a white man, which we said last week, because that's how we felt. But it doesn't mean that we're right. So we look into it further, and we come back and say, no, it was a black man, but it's likely, we're still gonna say it's likely he took it to his bigger head, because he don't own Pure Gym, and it was just it was in his coonery. They said, well, it's a black man saying it, we can agree with it, let's do it. You know what I'm saying? And they run with it, because if they had said no, they would have been seen as not pushing diversity. And if they say, and it for them. So that's really kind of the angle. So not to say we can't expand and do wider things, which is the point of why we want the show to grow, that we can do that over time. But at the moment,
and basically, it was also available, which I think it's a YouTube, which was the rise of Rasta. You were talking about it earlier.
Yeah.
It was out there. And,
okay.
I put it out so that people would know about it.
Okay. So the rise. Okay. So the rise of Rasta by J.A. Rogers. Okay. Okay. All right. No worries. All right. Yeah, man. No worries. But yeah. Yeah, man. Due to time, we have to wrap up. Come, we've got to summarize the show now. Yeah. All right. Yeah, man. Thanks for calling. Likewise. All right. Yes, we're out of time. We're out of the things that we've discussed this week. We've talked about the depiction of black folks on ITV and in the wide, how Black History Month is being represented, and we will continue touching on the delicate topic of Black History Month during Black History Month, tying it to the relevance of things that are being pushed out there in regards to us as a people. We've mentioned and discussed the lockdowns and the testing of the wanting to introduce vaccination firstly to the elderly and BAME, and as well as testing and the track and trace and all those things. We had a good discussion around that. We also discussed Jonathan Price, which is the latest black person to have been killed in America. It seems like, when's the next one, right? Feels like that sometimes. When's the next one? And the sad thing is that all people do is protest. I know that I keep saying, if it's my family, I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it. Probably I shouldn't say it, but I'm going to say it. If it's my family and my family is killed inappropriately, I don't business. Justice is when it's balanced out. And I know exactly what I mean. So, you know, we always push love, but, you know, I'm saying I'm not the turn the other cheek kind of guy. I don't agree with that. I think people should live and let people live, you know. But if you decide to do something like that, I'm not Mr. Keir Beer. As well as we discussed the case, the UK case of Kevin Clark, you know, who, you know, suffered that tragic loss of his life through a mental health episode and inappropriate treatment by the police back in March 2018. And then we also discussed Bianca Williams, her continued mistreatment by the police with their child being placed on a Merlin. Last but not least, we also discussed the High Court rule in favor of dreads not being acceptable in schools in Jamaica. So until next week, you know, keep, you know, doing the best you can. I don't need to say that. You all should know that. Keep tuning into Omega. Keep listening. We'd love to catch you guys again next week. Like I said, subscribe to the Doctor Surgery channel on YouTube, and we'd love to see some comments on some of the videos based on the shows on the YouTube channel. So until next week, take care and give care. You all look after yourself. Take care for now.
Media rate 104.1 FM. News and views around your community.
I don't think Secretary says the government will cover